The country I've chosen to research is Iceland. Iceland was initially given sovereignty in 1918 under a Denmark-Icelandic Act of Union. In 1918, through a clause given in Iceland's constitution, it allowed for them to fully withdraw from a Denmark oversight after 25 years. And on the 17th of June 1944, the independent Republic of Iceland was born. Iceland, as you can hopefully tell from the picture, is a large island secluded in the North Atlantic. And given how close Iceland is to the Arctic Circle, it has many hardships through the harsh winters and a very short growing season, creating many hardships. One is not being able to grow enough food in the summer months to last livestock through the winter, but in turn, since being located in the Atlantic, Iceland has developed a major fishing economy, mostly of codfish, which accounts for roughly 35% of its GDP, yet has to import lots of its food, though. Iceland is also the 11th largest aluminum producer in the world, accounting for 39% of its GDP. Iceland's political development through history is quite dry and uneventful. Iceland wasn't really united until Frederick III of Denmark engulfed Iceland into his empire, leading to a crippling trade monopoly in 1602 that hurt Iceland economically. It wasn't until 1874 that Denmark granted Iceland a constitution and home rule. Then, with progression of other countries revolting against their European overseers, did Denmark decide to be ahead of the curve and grant Iceland an act of union on December 1st, 1918, recognizing it as a sovereign state. Then Denmark was crushed by the Germans, which allowed their act of union to expire, and they were granted complete control of their own country. Also, the British invaded, which continues to the next slide. Before World War II, Iceland was a neutral country, meaning they could not aid any side of a war or fight in one. And the British, fearing that the probability of Germany taking control of Iceland after taking over Denmark, British initiated Operation Force, quite possibly the most uneventful military operation in all of history. On May 10, 1940, 746 British Royal Marines sailed to peacefully to Ireland and seized control of the whole country. Through the remainder of the war, there were sometimes up to 25,000 British troops in occupied Ireland. With an influx of British and American troops later in the war, Iceland's economy boomed from the influx of soldiers. Every 4 years, the people of Iceland directly elect a president and all thingy. The old parliament established in 930 AD. Iceland's legislative branch is made up of 63 elected officials by proportional representation, and it takes up to 32 MPs for a political party to achieve a majority. Though hardly any one political party ever achieves a majority, government coalitions are most common. Althingi is the only house in the legislative branches, their legislative branch. There are no upper houses or lower houses. Although Iceland closely resembles America's government, Iceland's executive branch consists of a president, a prime minister, and a cabinet of ministers, where the elected president appoints a prime minister and cabinet members. The president is considered the head of state, who can introduce bills and also sign or veto them, while the prime minister is the head of government, and is a sort of supervisor for all ministers to ensure productive legislation. Fun fact, the prime minister, the speaker of parliament, or the head of the Supreme Court may act for the president if he or she is not available. As for the judicial branch, Iceland has a national court, a Supreme Court, and some lower courts. The National Court was established in 1905 to judge cases against the president's cabinet members. Of the National Court's 15 members, 5 are Supreme Court judges, 8 people are elected by all thingy, a law professor, and a district court official. Clear, the National Court does not dictate legislation, but rather is an overseer of high-ranking government officials. Another fun fact, the National Court has been used only one time since 1905, and that was in 2011. As for Iceland's Supreme Court, it was established in 1920, which consists of 9 judges nominated by the president, but also has to be confirmed by the Minister of the Interior. Within the court, there is a president and vice president that is more like a manager, making sure everyone keeps busy and stays in line. Also, with the smaller district courts, there are 8 of them. It is the sort of lower house of Iceland's judicial branch, where it oversees everyday disputes like criminal cases and civil disputes. The Court of Impeachment is just how it sounds, a special court in charge of judging members of parliament if they do something illegal. The labor court settles disputes between trade unions and within industry. With turnouts over 75%, Iceland sure knows how to throw an election. Every 4 years, the people of Iceland elect a president and a representative for all thinking. It's important to note that the president and legislation elections are not elected in the same year. For the last presidential election in 2016, while the parliament was elected a year later in 2017. Also, the president doesn't have a term limit, and Iceland only uses paper ballots. Iceland's political leaders are shown as follows, with Gundi C. Johannesson on the left is the president, a history teacher at the University of Iceland who ran as an independent and partyless member and managed to secure 39% of the popular vote, becoming Iceland's youngest president at age 48. He's also known for kidding about banning pineapple on pizza. No wonder he had the highest approval rating among all former presidents at 68%. And on the right is Katrin Jakobdottir of the Left Green movement. She was formerly the Minister of Education, Science, and Culture, along with the Minister of the Nordic Cooperation. Now she is Iceland's current Prime Minister and overseer of the coalition between the Left Green movement, Socialist Democratic Alliance, and the Pirate Party. Katrin is also the second woman to serve as Prime Minister. The one thing that surprised me the most about Iceland's political system was that Icelanders managed to wade through 10 different political parties. There are even apps to help sort through all the political mayhem. Also, of those 10 political parties, do not include independent citizens running for president, so there are even more people to choose from. Iceland is unique in the sense that it hasn't closely matched any previous country discussed in class. There is no Icelandic revolution. Their political system leans center-left and deals with minor corruption. If I had to choose a similar country covered so far, it would be Russia. They both have proportional representation within their legislative branch, both considered democracies. And that was about it. Not a whole lot else. Iceland seems to be uniquely set up compared to other European nations, because it drew so much of its constitutional inspiration from America. To wrap things up, some key things to remember are as follows. Iceland is a very small democratic country with 10 different political parties. That is very similar to our own, America's. With elections every 4 years, the president and legislation seats are distributed by a proportional representation, and all of their high-ranking positions are chosen by the president, who has no term limits, along with the prime minister, who also has no term limits. Sorry about that.